Welcome back to the Daily Move. Today's video was off of a suggestion for piriformis pain, and I'm also adding in sciatica pain with that. So your piriformis is a muscle that goes from your sacrum into your leg bone. So it's a band of tissue like so. When it gets tight, it can create some problems, even creating sciatic issues, which creates that pain that runs down the leg. So for today's workout video, you're going to need 2 stools that you trust that are going to be able to support you for some traction work that we're doing. You're going to need a wall that you can lean on in order for your hip to be able to touch down to. You're going to need a towel so that you can roll it up, and we're also going to use it for a hamstring stretch. And you need between 2 to 3 pillows. The more pillows if you're in more pain, because it's going to help support the hips. You need less pillows if you're not really in pain, but you're just doing this video just to give your piriformis some love. And then of course you're going to need some floor space to move around. So go ahead, hit pause on the video, go grab what you need, and we're going to get started. So we're going to start on with our back, so just take your time getting down. Especially with that piriformis, it's causing you pain, or even if you have sciatic pain, just make sure that you take your time settling into the ground. So we're just gonna hang out here. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna flatten the ribs down and try to flatten your back down, and then relax. So I'm pushing my ribs down, creating my back to press more into the floor, being supported, and then relax. Just watch that your legs aren't creating that motion, so it's not my legs pushing into the ground to flatten my back, but rather it's because I'm pressing my ribs down and using my ab muscles to be able to flatten that back. So next what you're gonna do is keep that back flat. You're gonna bring one leg up and then the other. You're gonna give yourself a slight little hug here. And if it feels good, you're just gonna rock from side to side. So we have 2 hip bones, one on either side of our body, and you can just feel the weight transferring from one side to the other. So next what you're gonna do is place one leg down, cross the other leg over, gently pull that ankle down towards the thigh, and allow this leg to open up. Now if you're not feeling much of a stretch here, what you can do is lift up the leg to feel a deeper stretch. Some people can even thread their arms through. So we're trying to feel this right here into the butt cheek area. Now you can stay static like this, or you can press the knee out and then let the knee fall back in. Okay, lowering that leg back down, we're going to switch sides. Cross that other leg over, you can assist it with the hand. Again, you can stay here if this is intense enough where you're feeling it in the glutes, or you can pick up that other leg. And again, you can stay static here, or you can add a dynamic portion where you're pushing and bringing the knee back in. then what you're gonna do is you're gonna drop one leg down, the other knee is gonna come into the chest. I'm gonna pull that knee towards my opposite shoulder. And then once I'm in this position here, again, I can hang out. You can feel this in the glute. If you want some added stuff, then you can internally rotate the leg to be able to pick up that knee towards the ceiling as you're driving in. So again, totally okay for it to be normal, pulling it in, and then across, just feeling a stretch into the glute. If you want a little bit of an added thing, you can rotate that leg inwards because that's going to put more pressure into that piriformis. And again, you can make it more dynamic by creating that rotation, or you can be static and holding it. Just see what feels better in the body. Slowly returning back to center. We're going to repeat that on the opposite side. So I'm bringing that knee into my chest. I'm pulling it up and across towards the other side, making sure my shoulders stay stable. You can hang out in this position here, or you can create that hip internal rotation where basically I'm just kicking upwards. And that's creating rotation here at that leg bone. Again, you can be dynamic where you're moving, or static where you're holding. And returning back to center, bring both legs up. Give yourself a little bit of a hug. So one leg is going down towards the floor, the other one you're gonna stay close to your chest. You're gonna have a towel or something nearby that you can actually use as assistance. You're gonna take that take that towel, put it around your leg, and you're pulling the knee into the chest. So I'm driving the knee into my chest by pulling it with my arms. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lengthen up, feeling a stretch into my hamstrings, and then pulling it back into my chest. So if you start shaking, it just means that you've gone too aggressively. Just come out of that range. So you don't have to straighten your knee quite as much. Now you're going to keep that leg up. You're going to take that other leg and you're going to slowly start extending it outwards. Now you can keep your leg where it is, or you can let it drift out towards the same side armpit. Okay, returning back to center, you're going to let go of that towel. We're then going to switch sides. So make sure you start with both knees bent again. You're coming up, you're hooking that foot. You're hugging the knee into the chest and then trying to straighten that leg, but it's okay if it doesn't straighten. You want to work with your body. You don't want to force it in anything. If you force it, the body's only going to get tighter. So once you've done that a few times, you're going to keep your leg up straight. You're going to take the other leg and start walking it away. And you can hang out here, or you can pull it towards the same side armpit. Come back to center, release that leg. You can put the towel aside. So for this next one here, you're only gonna do it one way. Unless you don't have any pain, then you can do it on both sides. So if my piriformis or sciatic pain is on the right side here, I'm gonna shift my body away from the pain. So all I did was go into a slight little glute bridge, bring my hips, shift it over. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bend both knees and I'm gonna allow my legs to start falling towards the painful side, keeping my back on the ground. So even though my hips are rotating towards this side, I'm staying down. If you notice that your knees separate, what you'll want to do is take some pillows or take out that rolled towel so that when you allow those legs to fall down to the side, that it's being supported so that the knees don't have to separate. So again, you can stay static where you just stay here the entire time, or what you can do is you can bring the legs back up and back down. I find the more that I settle into this pose, it does start to let go. But with being that said, you don't want to go past your limit because then the body's just going to tighten up and it's not going to allow that release to happen. So if you're someone who's not experiencing any pain, I would come back to center, shift my hips in the opposite direction, and allow those legs to fall to the side. It's always a good idea to check where your range is on the opposite side because it may be different from one side to the other. You might not need support on the other side. And it also gives you feedback on which side is the tighter side. So same thing, you can hang out here, or what you can do is make it a little bit more dynamic where you're bringing the legs back to center and letting them fall to the side. And if you do have a side that creates pain, I just want you to hang out on the pain side. Coming back to center. So this is a little bit more of an advanced pose, but just depending on where you're at, you're gonna cross one leg over the other so my thighs are crisscrossed. Now you can just keep your hands down on the ground if you wish, trying to squeeze the thighs in towards your chest. If it's available to you, sometimes I like to use this for my neck support. If it's available to you, you're gonna grab both ankles or both shins and you're lightly pulling in towards your chest and then also pushing the legs into the hands. So I'm kind of almost going back and forth between the two. So I'm pushing my legs out and then relaxing by squeezing it in. So it's a great way to get into the piriformis. If that's available to you, of course, if you're having sciatic pain, if any of these exercises are increasing the pain, don't do it. The body's not ready for it and you'll actually make your symptoms worse. So same thing, I'm pressing out into my hands and then I'm using my hands to pull my legs into a tighter squeeze. And if that's not available to you, you can always just have your hands here, or you can skip this exercise completely, just respecting where your body is at. Okay, slowly uncrossing that. Now we're gonna get up. So some people can just do a sit up here, that's fine. But some people watching may be in a lot of pain. So if you're in a lot of pain, the easiest way to get into this is shifting those hips again, rolling off to one side, and then using your arm to actually get yourself back up. So be safe with that motion. So once you're up here, what you're going to do is you're going to have one leg out straight. You're going to rotate your body towards the leg that's straight. So again, this one here is a little bit more advanced too. I'm placing the leg down so my knees are matching. My foot is out to the side. And then what I'm doing is I'm trying to get this butt cheek to sit down towards the ground. So you should feel a pretty intense stretch in here. Sometimes people feel it on top. If you do, you can actually change the angle of the foot in order for you to feel more of a sensation into the piriformis area. So the piriformis is a band of muscle that goes from the sacrum into where the leg is. So it's a band like so. So you should be feeling it across basically your glute. So as I'm hanging out here, I'm just seeing if my body will allow me to go into a deeper position here. Now you can add to this stretch here by internally rotating that leg again, lifting that leg bone upwards, and then bringing it back down and sinking. Again, that's quite advanced. If it's going to cause a cramp, I don't want you to do it. And then you can do the opposite by lifting up the knee and coming back down into it. So again, you can make this a static hold where you're just feeling it into that piriformis, or you can add that hip internal rotation, external rotation. Now, some people can actively lift up their foot. If not, you can passively lift up that leg. Just be careful that you're not violating any end ranges in your body, and you'll know that by a cramp. So to come out of this position here, I'm gonna lean back towards my straight leg before I allow that leg to come back out. I like to give them a little bit of a shake before going into the opposite side. So for the opposite side, I'm gonna roll to my right side. This is hard because there's a dog. And then I'm bringing that knee in towards that other side, and then I'm allowing that butt cheek to start falling towards the ground. Again, this could be a little bit too advanced depending where you're at, but I kind of wanted to give exercise options for everyone, people who aren't in pain, who are trying to get that piriformis to stretch a little bit more. But I also want to give some more beginner options too. So again, as you're in this position here, you can start internally rotating, lifting that foot off the ground, leaning back, and then bringing that hip up. Another way to make this more intense too is by sitting upright and then really trying to get that bum to touch the ground. This is going to make these exercises harder. Or you can just stay static into that pose as well. I like doing a few dynamic and then going and settling back into that static hold. I find that I get the best results that way, but every person's body is going to respond to stimulus differently. So you've got to kind of play around with it in order to see what works for you. So again, coming out of this, be very gentle. You're going to start leaning forward, straightening out that leg, and just shake it out again. Easier exercise to do is starting to sit like this, taking one leg, you can bend it. Now you can stay here and create that twist, or if you want more of a stretch, you can cross the leg over. Sitting nice and tall, I'm pulling that knee in towards the opposite armpit. You should feel a stretch into the glute here. Now you can stay here if that's good enough. If you want to add something, you can create a spinal twist, rotating towards the leg that is bent. So same thing, you can stay here statically. If you want to add a dynamic component, what you can do is you can push your knee into your hand and then you can pull it in towards your armpit. Now this is quite the arm workout, so if you don't want to do that, you can also create your arm here where you push into the elbow and then take the elbow and push it across. You've got to get pretty good spinal rotation in order to be able to use that elbow. So again, doing whatever is appropriate for the body and wherever you're feeling that stretch into the glute. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So again, you can just place your foot down like this. You can do the same thing where you're hugging that knee across and then twisting your body. You don't necessarily need to cross the leg over. That's just going to give you more of an intense stretch. I'm taking that knee and I'm aiming for my opposite armpit with this motion. Again, I can stay here and just wiggle that. I can stay here and hold it statically, or if I want, I can grab it and then twist my body. And same thing, I can push into my elbow and then use my elbow to pull that into just a deeper stretch. So one of my favorite ones for the piriformis, again, this is more of an advanced option, is crossing both of my legs over. And I'll be stretching the leg that's on top. So once they're stretched over, I've got a nice tall spine and I'm leaning my body forward. I feel like I get the deepest stretch in this area and I feel like I'm relaxed enough that I can actually start moving forward with this. So again, staying static, you can stay in this position, or what you can do is you can lengthen your spine and then lean forward, seeing if you can get any further with that, being super gentle. And we can switch sides with this, crossing one leg over the other. I've warmed up the tissue. That's usually when I like to start rolling. So you can use a foam roller or you can use a ball. You're gonna place it into your butt cheek here and you're gonna create that figure 4 again. So I'm crossing one leg over top of the other and that's going to allow me to use the other leg to start rolling. Now you're gonna notice some pretty tight spots there. Once you find a good spot, you can just stay there and let that melt. So let it just release. Once that feels like it releases, find a new spot. Now you can either have your legs bent like this, or another option is having that leg straight and then using your other leg to find new spots to kind of sit on. Again, personal preference, whatever gets into those spots more. And of course I've stolen the dog's balls, so they're very intrigued in what I'm doing here. Okay, switching sides, so same thing, you can create that figure 4 using that bottom leg to navigate, finding some pretty painful spots, and then spending some time on that until that pain melts away. The other option is having that leg straight, but still using the bent knee to kind of navigate, lifting up and then rolling, placing it onto a new spot into the glute. So next what you're gonna need is 2 chairs to be able to create some self-traction. So 2 chairs, it's good to have backings on it that you can actually put your hands on and support yourself, because you are gonna lift your upper body on top of the lower body, which we'll show here in a second. So go ahead, you can pause this video, go grab 2 stools and then join me again. So you can create traction for your lower body if you have 2 stools like this that you feel like you can support yourself on. What I'm doing here is I'm pressing upwards. You don't necessarily need your feet to come off the ground, but I'm pressing up. It's going to create some traction. My lower body is actually going to stay down. Feel that lightness and then come back down. So you can do this as many times as you feel necessary. It's kind of nice to break up the day like this, just creating that traction. And I feel like what's going to limit you more is how much you can handle on your hands, being able to push into an object to allow that just to traction and be heavy in the hips. I find even doing 10 to 15 second holds is plenty just to kind of give that some relief. And you can kind of play around with leaning forward with it, with tucking the pelvis to kind of swaying the hips from side to side, whatever makes that feel good, just give that a try. This next exercise, you just need a wall. You're gonna bend the elbow and place it on the wall. What you're gonna do is allow the hips to come down towards the wall and then push them back. So I find the more that the shoulder is closer to the wall, the easier it becomes. If I'm away from the wall, because I have to go further, I'm gonna have a bigger and greater stretch, but it just depends on the level that you're at. And make sure to do both sides on this one. Again, going nice and slow. Now I'm feeling this here, a big stretch here, but it's also going to change how that pelvis is actually lying. So you can do between 5 to 8 reps on both sides. So for the next floor series here, this is if you are in quite a bit of pain, you're gonna want 3 pillows to rest on. If you're not in pain, but you wanna still do this exercise, 1 pillow is plenty. So you'll notice that I have my pillows set up here and then I have the towel out in front, that's for my forehead. So you're gonna lay down on your stack of pillows. You're gonna lay down on your stack of pillows so that your pelvis is being supported by the pillows. You're gonna lay all the way down and your forehead is being supported by the towel. So I want you to keep your forehead down. I'm gonna lift up because that's gonna mute my voice too much. So you're going to basically do a pelvic tilt. So I'm using my ab muscles to kind of tuck my pelvis underneath, and then I'm creating a little bit of a back arch. So I'm tucking underneath and a little bit of a back arch. Now be mindful that the glutes is what's creating that action. It's really easy to like tuck your pelvis and squeeze your butt cheek, but that's not the point of the exercise. We're just trying to relax that pelvis bone. So what you're trying to do is use your ab and back muscles to create that tiny little tilt. And you'll notice here in the video, I am over exaggerating it just a bit, just so you can kind of see the action I'm doing, but it's really not a lot. So if I was doing this properly, you could see there's very little motion going on with this. Again, I don't want your head turned sideways like I am right now. I'm just doing that so that my voice isn't being muted. So you can go slow, you can go fast, whatever feels good with the body, and you can create this flexion extension of the low back. And I also like doing a little bit of side bending as well. And what I mean by that is I'm trying to pull my pelvis bone up towards my rib cage and then letting go, and then doing the same thing on the opposite side. So sometimes our piriformis gets cranky because our hip is kind of hip height on one side or the other. And we kind of addressed that already with that last wall exercise where we allowed the hip to fall in. This is another way you can also address it. It's pretty gentle. And I like to go back and forth between the flexion and extension and then doing the side bends. So next what you can do is we can go into a little bit of a spinal extension. So what I'm doing is I'm just lifting my chest up using my hands, pressing up. Again, if this makes your symptoms worse, I want you to stop immediately. But it is good to start working on that spinal extension. And if this isn't bothering you at all, what you can actually do is you can start pressing up higher into the spine. So again, it's just modifying it depending on what's going on with your body. This is going to be more advanced. And of course, if you have less pillows, you'll be getting even more of a spinal extension. So So the next thing we're gonna do is a baby crawl. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my knee off to the side and I'm gonna bring it upwards. So you're just gonna hold it here for a couple seconds, bring it back down. Now, if you have a side that's bothering you, I would just stay on that one side. If you don't have a side that's bothering you, you can alternate, or you can do 5 to 6 reps on one side and then repeat that on the other side. So we're starting here with the easiest version, just bringing the knee up towards the side. Again, if you have a side that bothers you, just stay on the painful side. So if it's my left side that's bothering me, I'm just gonna always continue on the left side. Then what you can do to progress this is you can side bend your body. So I'm bringing my upper body towards my lower body, back to center, lowering it down. If I don't have a side that's bothering me, I'm gonna alternate, or I'm gonna do the same reps on one side compared to the other. Now you can move at the same time, or you can move the lower body and then the upper body, up to you. And then if you want to bring it up one more notch, you can come out to the side, but then you can lift up. So we've got a little bit more spinal extension, and then come back down. Again, if this causes you any kind of pain or discomfort, you're gonna stop this right away. This is just not a modification yet that your body's ready for. Again, we're not trying to make your symptoms worse. We're trying to make it better here through motion. All right, to get out of this, what I like to do is I take my elbows and I push the floor away. I create a back arch, kind of like I'm doing an angry cat, like cat-cow, and then pushing back into child's pose before coming back up. Another good floor exercise too, especially if you're in pain, is to lay on your stomach, have the pillow again for your face. Again, I want your face to actually be down, but I don't want my voice muffled. So I'm gonna be looking at the camera. So what I'm doing here is, if my left side is bothering me, I'm gonna pick up my hips and I'm gonna shift them to the right. So you're moving away from the pain. And we're creating a banana shape with my body. So my upper body is more towards the side that hurts. My legs are more towards the side that hurts, and my hip is being pressed away from the pain. So kind of similar to what we were doing with the wall, where we're trying to get the hip to touch, but now we're just more into a passive hold here, which you can just hang out. I'd hang out here for maybe 30 to 40 seconds. And if you are experiencing pain down the leg, this should start subsiding as you're hanging out here. Again, if it's increasing the pain, don't do this exercise. Letting everything go, try to take the tension out of the legs. Again, your head's not turned sideways. Make sure it's down so that it's good spinal alignment. So once you've hung out here for about 40-ish seconds, bring the knee out to the side so that you can put your arm here and roll yourself back up. Again, we're not trying to create any pain here. So for our last positioning today, we're gonna go back onto our back where we started from. Make sure you've got a few pillows to support underneath your knees, like so. You're gonna lay on your back. So this is option number one, being supported by the pillows, going into more of like a Shavasana pose that you'd see in yoga. Option number two is making sure that you're close to a wall. And then you're gonna have your feet straight up against the wall. this is going to allow that pelvis to settle. My favorite position is actually to go into a butterfly position up against the wall. I find if I'm here and then I spend some time pushing my knees apart, if my pelvis is sitting in a funny position, sometimes I get some really good clunks in there, and then it just kind of repositions the pelvis there. So up to you on your resting pose. We're gonna hang out here for a full minute. So as we're approaching that minute, take a few deep breaths here. We're going to start by bending those knees, taking the pillows away. Or if you're up against the wall, use your back muscles to kind of shimmy yourself away from the wall so that you can have your knees bent on the floor again. So as we're here in this position here, we're gonna do very slow bridges. So I'm curling my spine off the ground, lifting my hips up towards the ceiling. And then I'm gonna slowly reverse that, so allowing every vertebrae to start touching the floor, leaving the tailbone for last. Fully relax. Press that back down flat into the ground. You're curling that pelvis up in order to start taking vertebrae by vertebrae off the ground. Slowly coming back down. We're gonna do 3 of these. Going nice and slow. So once you're back, or once the pain of the piriformis starts settling down, the next step would be then to strengthen out the glutes. So I have a few other videos, one of which I'll link in the description below, that starts talking about how to start getting those hips nice and strong. So all I'm gonna do here is bring the legs back together, slowly tick-tocking the legs from side to side. This is how we started this workout. Giving it one last final massage before we end here. Now, one exercise I didn't include in today's that would actually be really good is the heel drop. And the heel drop, basically what you do is you find a step or a stool that you trust and you allow the heels to sink down. And you can see that one in the SI Out of Whack video, which I'll also link in the description below if you want to go and check out some other exercises you can do to help out with the hips. All right, guys, hopefully your hip feels really good. Again, if you're in pain, you're gonna roll onto the side here before you press on up. So let me know your thoughts if you have any pain with your piriformis or you have sciatica pain. Let me know if any of these exercises helped you out. Again, there's quite the variation from not very beginner, but I'm in a lot of pain, I can't move a lot, to more advanced exercises. So go at your own pace. It's okay if you only pick 2 to 3 exercises, as long as it's making you move better. Have a great day. Bye.